It is so great to see everyone. It looks like we still are having a few people popping in. I am going to, those of you that have just joined us, I'm going to share a few links that you will need for the session today. One is our slides that are editable. And so there is a part in the beginning of our session where you will need to be able to move a few things around on the slides. And so if you can have those open, and then towards the end of the session, we'll be screen sharing as well. So you won't need to have that up, but in the beginning, we'll want you to be able to move around some things on the slide. And then I also have linked in there our workshop materials.
We have a really great group going so far. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started with kind of the beginning of the day. Check-in sorts of things. If I present this, does that look okay to you all? Can you see the slide? Okay, awesome. So welcome to our Passion and Purpose Conference. We're so excited to have you guys here with us on a Saturday. Just some housekeeping things. Make sure just periodically to check that you're muted unless you're speaking. Sometimes coming in and out of breakout rooms can throw that differently than what you think. And just so you know, we will be recording this session. Our hopes is at the end of today, if somebody had to miss a session that they wanted, that they'll be able to go back and access those recordings. Also include your first and last name for us so that we can be sure to know who we're working with and chatting with. And then, like we've mentioned, we have some resources, materials for you to keep track of your thinking. Today is going to be super interactive. If you're used to coming to webinars where you just kind of sit and listen, that's not today. So hopefully you're geared up for that. We were going to be working hard, chatting with each other, breakout rooms, that sort of thing. So hopefully it'll be a really collaborative learning experience. And then we just hope that you have an open heart and mind with us. As a group, we have decided to have some norms for our sessions all day to be kind, helpful, patient, and to participate. So keep those in the back of your mind. Let's see if this will let me move on. So the essential question for the workshop as a whole today, each session will try to address this. What sparks your passion and purpose as an educator? And we know that this year especially has been extremely hard for us in so many different ways, whether you've been hybrid or fully virtual or even in the classroom full time amidst all of the crazy pandemic. It's been hard. And we believe that tapping back into our passion and a purpose as educators will continue to support us a little bit as we move forward. And we're definitely looking forward to that Christmas break. So go ahead, if you haven't already, throw your name and where you're from into the chat and also share a mini celebration. Kendle, will you read out a few as they come through? I can't see the chat in my screen share.
Yes, I will read those out.
We love to just kind of set the tone of our meetings with smiles and celebrations and things to uplift our spirits.
Cynthia, you're in Driggs. You're my neighbor. Well, not really neighbor. I'm in Victor. It's good to see you. And you might need to help me with your last name because I have a hard one too. Cynthia Ackley. Is that right? Actually.
Usually people just say actually or Ashley, and I'll answer to either.
Oh, Cynthia, I know you. Hi. Nice to see you. Then we have Delcy Paredes. Okay, you're gonna have to help me. I might just do first names now because I get my last name botched all the time. So Delcy. Daisy. Okay. Well, nice to see you. Twin Falls, we have Merlinda, and she's a virtual teacher in Nampa. Leslie from McCall, teaching first grade. Ooh, there's lots of people. I don't know if I can keep up. Jody, second grade in Jerome, Idaho. Katie, CDA School District Curriculum Director, awesome. Trista, Title I teacher in Sandpoint. Kelsey, kindergarten in Caldwell. Stephanie from Orfino, K3 special ed, Amy from Camas. Her celebration is that her small drama class had a successful Readers Theater performance. That's awesome. Mary Beth teaches kindergarten in Kuna, and Samantha Trombley in Mountain Home.
Awesome. Thanks, Kendall, for reading out some of those. I hope you guys are really feeling those celebrations today in your heart. I'm excited to be here working with teachers. That is what I'm celebrating today, because I haven't had as much experience out in the classroom world this year as I would have liked. So thanks for being here. Okay, some more just little what you need to know for today. If you ever are asked for a passcode for any session today, that's going to be ICN 2021. That doesn't change throughout the day. So if you just want to write that down somewhere, you'll be good to go for the whole day. ICN 2021, but you all were able to get into this one. Great. So that's good to know. This is the schedule for the day. There's breaks in between sessions, and you can find the times also located on the conference website. So if you get a little bit lost, you can always go back through your email to find that conference website. There will be a 1 hour lunch break too, to give you some time to get up and walk around, stretch your legs, because it's a long day. And then this is just our Idaho Coaching Network team. We've been working mostly virtual this year. And so this is our Zoom picture of the work we do. We're spread out throughout the state in the 6 different regions of Idaho. And it has just been an absolute pleasure. These are some of the honestly greatest people on planet Earth, in my opinion. So I'm so grateful to have worked with all of them. And I'll just quickly read our why statement. The Idaho Coaching Network builds relationships with and among teachers to raise collective efficacy, increase teacher expertise and effectiveness, and build leadership skills so that all Idaho teachers and students achieve excellence in the classroom and in life. And it's been an absolute honor to be part of this year. And I'm hoping that we can continue to spread some of that to you all today. So now I'll throw it over to Kendall.
All right, so to start our session, just wanted to introduce ourselves. I am Kendle Hoogestraat, and I'm a Region 6 coach, and I live in Victor, Idaho, over in that Teton Valley eastern side of the state. And my partner is amazing Sierra May, and she is from Region 5 and is down in the Inkom, kind of Pocatello area. So that's who we are. We both taught lower elementary school for many years prior to our experience here. I've been a 2nd and 3rd grade teacher, and Sierra, correct me if I'm wrong, you've been 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, correct? Okay. All right. And so to start us off, we are going to have a welcome wheel. And so this is an interactive slide. And so if you want to ever use any of the resources that we are using today, you can feel free to make copies of this. And so for this is just a quick little way of greeting your students if you're virtual or if you're face-to-face. So I'll have Sierra click on that so that we can decide how we are saying hello this morning. It's like a little interactive and Sierra, I don't think I can see your screen. There we go. Okay. And so this is we'll be using wordwall.net later on as well. But this is just kind of a fun interactive tool. So we'll see how we're going to say hello this morning. Oh, we're going to do spirit fingers. All right. Is everybody ready? Spirit fingers, hello. Woo! Thank you for indulging me on that. That's always just a fun way of creating connection with kids. So for framing the session, we have a few essential questions. actually just one, and then some learning objectives for our time today. Our first essential question is, how can educators build foundational skills to cultivate independent readers by grade 3, since that is our big push here in the state of Idaho. And then learning objectives, participants will refresh prior phonics knowledge. Participants will learn strategies to help build and support phonics aligned to research with the science of reading. And participants will transfer webinar strategies into a virtual or face-to-face classroom environment. And so to frame our session today with a little bit of writing into the day, we're going to watch this video of Maya. And then in your workshop materials, there's a few questions for you to respond to after watching this video. I think there's 3 questions in there. And so we'll watch it, and then I will give you a few minutes to respond to those questions. I think they are on page 3 of your workshop materials.
My name is Maya. I'm in the 2nd grade and I have trouble reading. When I open up a book, some words I can read, some words I can't. I mix up words and sounds sometimes. I would look at pictures and try to read the words that I could read. Other kids were getting done really fast, but I felt like I wasn't learning. And they felt like they were learning, but I didn't feel like I was learning, and I wasn't getting done very fast. I just got really frustrated and I felt like I couldn't do it.
Reading can be really difficult for some kids. We're asking 5- and 6-year-olds to master a complex system of letters and sounds. We know they can do it, but it's not always easy. For young children with reading issues, just opening up a book can be discouraging. And reading in front of the class can be embarrassing. Kids might be trying so hard to sound out each word that the meaning of those words escapes them. If we don't give our children the skills and support that they need, they might come to hate reading or to think that they just can't do it. Fortunately, there are ways to help children find their footing and to understand that they aren't dumb. Their brains just work a little differently. For example, we can show kids how changing just one letter can make a huge difference in how a word sounds and what it means. Just think about pit, pet, pat, pot, and put. That basic awareness, especially of the vowel sounds, can be a big step toward unlocking the mystery of reading. With the right strategies and accommodations, almost every child can become a skilled reader.
I had to read books in the summer every day. I started to read every word that I saw. Now I try to sound it out. Like if I was doing happy, happy, and I get the words right. I've been reading road signs, and every word I see, I try to read.
All right, so I do want to invite you to your session materials or your workshop materials on page 3. The questions that we want to invite you to respond to are, what questions do you have after watching Maya? Or does Maya remind you of any student you have had? How? And then how can Maya's teachers support her further? And we'll spend a few minutes responding to those questions. And if you feel comfortable to share any of your insight or comments in the chat, feel free to do so as well.
Kendall, do we want to throw this session material in the chat one more time and for people who might have missed the first round?
Yes, I will do both the slides and the workshop materials.
I know it's never enough time, but take maybe 30 more seconds to just wrap up the thinking that you can get to. No worries if we move a little fast through that part. We just wanted to get you situated and thinking around students and this sort of work. Awesome. Okay, let's come back together. The next slide, the next couple slides are the slides where we're going to ask you to interact on the slides with us a little bit. So we're going to do a little bit myth or fact activity, and what you'll see on the slides looks like this. And I'm actually going to come back down to this view. On the sides, if you see how you can scroll to the sides, you will be able to actually grab a star and just vote if you think that this sentence is a myth or a fact. If you have trouble with editing this, please reach out and let us know. I actually don't need to stop my screen sharing here, I don't think. So I'll read this slide and then you think about, is it a myth or is it a fact? Grab a star and throw a vote. So reading is primarily about decoding symbol to sound. If students are thoroughly taught every possible letter sound relationship and their various combinations, they will become proficient readers and writers. So is that a myth or fact? Oh, thank you. I see somebody's throwing out some info there. Fantastic. This is great so far. Keep them coming. I think we should have at least 12 to 14 votes, but take all the think time you need. We're going to come back to this. We're not trying to be those tricky teachers that have a really wordy question. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move forward, but don't worry. Don't worry if you're having a tech trouble or something. It's all good. Let's go down to slide 14. Teaching the class one letter sound relationship per week, often introducing these letter sounds in order of the alphabet, is an effective way to start teaching phonics in kindergarten. Myth or fact? Love it. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and move to slide 15, but we'll be able to come back and see these throughout the day. Slide 15. In the early years, most of the literacy session time, that is approximately 1.5 hours per day, should be devoted just to phonics activities, sometimes in the form of a commercial phonics program. Here we go. You guys are definitely getting the hang of this. Thank you. Fabulous.
In the chat, a few people are saying they can't grab a star. If not, that's all right. I'm sorry that it's not working out.
You can try sliding to the side. But no worries. You can just tap into the chat if you think it's a myth or fact, and that would be great input as well. Moving to slide 16. Teaching phonics can impede the reading process by encouraging students to rely too much on decoding and not enough on reading for meaning. This results in students that bark at print and don't understand what they have read. This one might be tricky. Love it. I love seeing those stars moving across. Okay, thank you guys. So we are going to actually talk about, those are all myths, by the way, and we're going to kind of go into the research behind why those are all a myth. We're going to do that in some breakout rooms. And what you're going to do in your breakout room is you can talk about the poll, how you reacted, what you thought about those questions, but then also in your resource materials, there's on page 4 and 5, there's going to be myth 1, myth 2, the next page has myth 3 and myth 4, and there's kind of the backing and the reasoning why. So in your breakout rooms, we're going to have you read one of the myths and kind of highlight and annotate what the MVP kind of stands out to you about that myth. Kendall, I can't remember what we decided. Did we decide they could just choose whatever myth they were most inclined to and then talk about it in their groups?
Yeah. So once I send you off into breakout rooms, feel free to spend the first couple minutes independently reading whichever myth you choose. You can all choose different ones if you want. And then after a couple of minutes, we'll send a message that says to maybe start discussing what you took from that, what your MVP was. That sound good?
Okay. Any questions that we can answer for you? Just unmute and shout it out. Okay, so you're going to be in your resource materials. We'll give you a few minutes. Pick the myth that stands out to you, and then you can have a conversation. Kendall, are you able to access this? Okay, just double checking that.
Are you all able to get to your breakout rooms? Stephanie, did you get there we go.
Make sure to send me into one for recording purposes.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Let me see if I could figure that out.
If not, it's all good.
I don't see you as an option, Sierra.
Okay.
Can you add yourself to a room?
Let me see. I can assign you. Well, there you go. There's our first hiccup of the day. I think it'll be just fine. I'm going to tell them to go ahead and start.
Next time, maybe I'll just leave a few in the main room.
Oh, that's a great suggestion. Oh, the breakout room will end in 4. Oops. Oh, well.
That's all right.
When I'm screen sharing, I can't easily read the chat, just so you know. So if I'm ignoring something, text me.
No problem. Yeah, no, I've been on the chat. So yeah, I think I just see a text from you. Should I keep them open just for a little bit?
Yeah. Can you click that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I also got that notification. So great. Give them a few minutes. I'll try to shorten the research.
Oh, you found some good visuals.
Right? They match the rainbow.
Can you hear the Frozen party happening out there? No.
Very, very minor, like just sound, like you're not in an empty house, but nothing distracting.
Okay, good.
Okay, do you think that's enough time?
Yeah, I'm gonna close them.
All right.
Oh, I wanted to I should have gone into one. I'm just curious what they're saying.
Hi, welcome back. Hopefully, it's never enough time. I know it's never enough time, but hopefully there was some good discussion or something good that you can refer back to. Unfortunately, we're going to move on from that kind of introductory activity. I'm going to throw up my screen share again. We're going to just talk a minute about the science of reading and the research behind what that means, and just give you a little touch. So this is Scarborough's reading rope, and it's something that has been used with the science of reading to really kind of try to describe and define these pieces and elements that need to come together for young readers to learn how to read. And this is really, it's science of reading because there's scientific backing and research to support this. So we need to have language comprehension, that's background knowledge, vocabulary, the verbal reasoning, understanding, inference, and metaphors, and then print concepts and genres. That needs to kind of come in and get interwoven into the actual word recognition or the phonological awareness, decoding, and sight recognition. So you have to have these two pieces they can't just know the sounds and letters and be able to sound out a word. They need to have the meaning behind that word, the different meanings, the shades of meaning, and be able to comprehend background knowledge to put this together. Another way to look at that is this is the simple view of reading, and it basically says the same thing, but in a little different way. You have to have decoding and language comprehension to get true reading comprehension. Language comprehension is word and the ways language works. So I liked this mathematical equation to demonstrate that if you're 100% decoder reader, but you have 0% language comprehension, you're not a reader. You're not understanding what you're reading. You can't achieve that reading comprehension success that students need to be successful. So it's important to be able to interweave those two pieces. In the ladder of reading, Nancy Young indicates the importance of systematic and explicit reading structure. So it needs to go in an order, very systematically, very explicitly. It's hard to jump around and students to be able to follow that. Their brains don't function that way. So 5% of students are able to learn with little or no effort. Okay, very small percentage. 35% of students learn to read easily through broad core instruction. So only 35% if you're kind of really just broadly throwing things at them. 40 to 50% of students need a code-based, explicit, systematic, and sequential approach to instruction to learn to read. And then 10 or 15% of students will require additional repetitions and sophisticated diagnostic tools. And we kind of know that pyramid sort of shape from our teaching in the classroom, but that's an introduction. There's a lot more that goes into it, and we can't touch on all of it today, but that's kind of what we're going to attempt to do. These are effective instructional techniques. I'm not going to read these for you, but you'll have these slides and you can come back and access them. But it's important to give corrective feedback, to really monitor students and to have students monitor themselves, mouth, lips, eyes, tongues. Pacing is important to make sure that they're at the right pace that they need, that they're challenged, but they're also not falling behind. And then signaling is including hand signals, kind of that hands-on sort of approach. So come back and reference this if you want. And if you have questions, throw them in the chat and we'll get back to you. And then the gradual release of responsibility is a great way to teach phonics, where you go from this whole group setting where you're teaching kind of modeling, and then you can go to small groups where they're starting, but they still have some support, partner work where they can still have a little bit of support before moving to individually asking students to do something hard. A lot of times it's, especially if we're in a rush as teachers, it's easy to model something to the whole group and then jump right to individual practice. And that's not a great way to expect students to learn, because it's not safe. They are afraid of making a mistake and they don't have the supportive structure in place. So this is a great thing to throw into your classroom. And again, we can really go into more of that. If you have questions, we'd be happy to share more information along those lines. Throwing it back to you, Kendle.
Yeah, all right. Well, we have some really great conversations going on in the chat. So I love how you are all adding your insight into the chat and your ideas. So thank you. You can continue doing that. So the goal that I had when including this next component in our session was so that you had something to take back into your classroom. And so in speech to print, Louisa Cook Moats, she's done a lot of research and has written this whole book. I wish I had it right in front of me. I could show you around the science of reading. And so this is a typical lesson component for any foundational skill instruction that she offers in her book as a way to make sure you're hitting a lot of the different components. And so in your workshop materials on, let's see, I think that this is on page 6 of your workshop materials. If you want to look at the whole lesson component all on one page, you can go ahead and look at that. But I have them broken down into just smaller chunks on the slides that I'll be going through. And just so that you know that that's there, if it makes sense to look at the whole thing. I just couldn't fit it all on one slide. It would have been too squished. So back to the slides with the first component that Louisa Cook, that Moats, I'll just call her Dr. Moats the rest of the session. So the first component is the simple state the goal of the lesson, and that will only take seconds. And that, again, is just a brief and very direct statement. And then the second lesson component is typically around 5 minutes. And that is a review of previously learned material. And so she offers just ideas and suggestions over on that right-hand column. Reread familiar text, reread words with known patterns, practice sound symbol association with known correspondences. And then the third component is phoneme awareness. And that is a huge part of learning to read, is to give your students the opportunities to hear the sounds without the print, and to break down, sorry, distractions in the house, break down words without seeing the print and hearing all of the sounds. And I really appreciated this part that she includes in this session. There's some research that I wanted to pull out that she has in her book too. The National Reading Panel in the year 2000 found that more than 50 gold standard studies verifying that explicitly teaching phonemes was a critical component of effective reading and spelling instruction. And she continues then to say, many first and second grade students and even older students who are poor readers or spellers often have not acquired the sufficient skill in phoneme identification, segmentation, deletion, or substitution to support word recognition and writing. And so I think that's a really great component to continue to teach, as up to second, third, fourth grade, is just listening to the phonemes. And so for typical instructional activities, she includes just referring to the articulation while identifying phonemes, target early, basic, or advanced phoneme awareness wherever your students are at, focusing on listening and speaking without the print, and then using any kind of manipulatives. I pulled out some Unifix cubes that I have, if you had Legos or anything like that. And I'll show you how I would do this in the classroom in just a bit. And so then the next component is to introduce and explain the new reading spelling pattern explicitly. And this is about 3 to 5 minutes. She offers some suggestions. First, define explicitly and give relevant information. Draw students' attention to both print and speech while matching symbols and sounds. If your lesson component is including the actual symbols, present or model several examples, and obviously clarify any word meaning as necessary. And then the next component is giving that guided practice, and that's where you can really just monitor where your kids are at. That's when you're doing that quick pacing that Sierra was talking about, and also just monitoring their lips very, very closely. So typically this is around 5 minutes. Engage students in supported practice, use routines for sound blending, word building, word mapping, word reading, and then give immediate or corrective feedback as students apply that skill. All right, and then the next component is to provide monitored independent practice opportunities. And this could also be partner activities too, if your student is not quite ready for that independence yet. Around 5 minutes, and she offers to provide extended practice in word phrase sentence reading using a variety of activities, pair students for practice activities, assign one as the coach, and then reverse the roles. I always think that is a fun way to give kids that leadership role in the class. And then the next component is spell and write. So giving your students the chance to write down and dictate letters, words, phrases, and sentences practice sentence formulation with anagrams or with words to combine into a sentence. We'll be using an anagram for the spelling and writing in the next lesson that I will show you here in just a bit. And then the final component is to get into some decodable text. And so to have them practice within real reading in decodable readers. So introduce 2 to 3 unknown high frequency words necessary for reading the text. Use the text with a high percentage of words with the correspondences that you've already taught, and expect accurate application of decoding skills. So choosing decodable readers that are just right for your students. All right, and so for the next part, so this is just a model of a lesson that I have put together that follows those components that Dr. Moats offers. And in your workshop materials on the next page is the same, sorry, if you can hear that ding, the same lesson, just written out in a different form. So let's say in the classroom, I was teaching the CVCE pattern. So I would explain with a learning target that today, kids, we're going to be working on reading and writing words with this pattern with the E at the end, consonant, vowel, consonant, E. And this word is same. It has the long A vowel sound with the E at the end. And then I'd move on to a review. Let's say that we had this as a previous lesson. And so that I would just explain how we had just practiced learning these words. We'd read them together just so that they continue to have some of their old patterns in their mind, and we're always reviewing and revisiting them. And then this is the phoneme blending activity. And so just like I mentioned before, I would have some type of manipulatives if you have Legos, or even if you don't have any manipulatives, you can use like different types of tapping, tap your arm for all the sounds that you hear. And so for this, I would ask my kids to have out their manipulatives, and together we would, I would just dictate words and they would practice. So I would love some help. Maybe if you wanted to, I didn't send you your own Unifix cubes, I apologize. But if you have any way that you like to tap out sounds in your classroom, I want to invite you to do so. So for this activity, let's see, I have my list of words down here. The first word we're going to listen to each individual sound is the word came. Came. So if I was with my class, I would have my different colored blocks out and say, I hear the k, the a, and the k, a, And then I do the same with a different word. The next word is blame. B, u, a, blame. B, u, a, blame. And so again, with this activity, it is not looking at words, it's just dictating words and hearing the sounds. We'll do one more together just for fun. Brave, brave, b, a, v. And so again, I would be really listening to my students during this time and hearing how they say all of the words so that I can catch any kind of misunderstandings. So for the next component in the lesson is then to introduce and explain the new pattern. And so we would read these words together. We would talk about the words. We would, really talk about how the E makes that long A sound, that the A, ache, and we'd really stretch out the words together to reinforce that. And again, if there's any students that are not sure what the meaning of some of the words are, I would clarify that. For example, date, there's a couple different meanings for that word. And maybe some of my students didn't know what a frame was, and so we would talk about that. And so The next component, and if you still have up your workshop materials, you are more than welcome to click on this Jamboard link. But if not, that's all right. You can kind of work with us. And so again, for the guided practice, that's the we do in the classroom. And I would invite my students to come up and sort these words one at a time if they felt comfortable. And we talk about, well, which word does have that long A sound and which word is not the long A sound. And so if you are in there, you are more than welcome to just grab and help us out. I see some people popping in there. And Sierra got us started with tape and tap and bat and late. So just a fun, I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of Jamboard, but it's a nice interactive tool if you are virtual or even in the classroom as well. Look at you guys go. You are amazing. Good job. And so in the classroom, again, this is that guided practice that I would be really looking for students that have any kind of misunderstanding. And for the independent practice, I chose to do a choice board. And this choice board is probably a little bit more for the upper levels. If you are in kinder, you would probably want to have pictures on your choice board, and you might want to have just a picture of an example. But for this, I was more thinking of some of my second grade students and how they could most of them, if they were partnered up, could read some of these. So if they were with a partner, I would give them a list of some of the CVCE words that we had just worked on, and they could choose what type of activity that they wanted to do. It could be maybe just 1 or 2 or 3 that they might have to do 3 in a row or 4 in a row, however you want to give them those directions. But use letter tiles to build CVC words. There's all different types of practice. That's okay. You are all more than welcome to come back here to explore on your own. But there's lots of different ways that you can have them practice spelling and reading those words. And so then the next is the spelling and writing component. And this is another wordwall.net. A typical anagram, you would have the words, the pattern, like for example, this pattern, I would have the A and the E in the same spot. But on WordWall, I couldn't do that. So it just has them all mixed up. And so I would just invite my students to try to spell a word by mixing the letters back together to spell a word that had a lot of the same pattern that we were working on. Good job. And so this is like an interactive too. If you wanted to click on that link, you can go to the same wordwall.net and do the same activity that Sierra is doing. You can't hear her volume, but it gives lots of claps and cheers when you get them right. And in the classroom, I would have my students do this with the spelling, with the pattern that we're working on, but then also invite them to write a sentence using that word too. And so they're spelling, they're practicing, but then they're also writing it in a sentence. You are doing great, Sierra. And so then the final component is just the decodable reader. And so pulling out a decodable reader that has that pattern and inviting your students to get that practice in text. And so that is a super fast and furious model, quick lesson of how that could look in your classroom with some different resources. And I'm going to let Sierra explain some additional resources that we have in this slide deck before you all get to practice creating your own lesson.
Thank you, Kendall. I love that. That was so fun to go through that and just kind of see that in action. So what we have now is we have a whole bunch of, I'm going to come out of this screen share. We have a whole bunch of possible activities that we have between slides 37 and 70 something. Like there's all of these different activities that we kind of found that go through some of the phonics concepts. And there's a lot of links on the slides. And what we're going to do is we're going to give you 5 minutes that's not enough time, but 5 minutes right now to kind of peruse through these slides between 35 and 75 to become comfortable with some of the activities that you see and get familiar, because after this, we're going to give you time to kind of start to begin a lesson based on those steps from Dr. Louisa Moats. And these are possible things that you might use to throw into that lesson plan. So I'm just going to give you 5 minutes. You can mute, turn your camera off if you're comfortable, but just peruse through all of these resources that look fun to you, that you might use. Kind of pick a phonics skill in your mind that you would really use in your classroom so that you could take this immediately and give it a try and see how you like it. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes and you can get started now. One-minute warning. Keep perusing, but 1-minute warning. Okay, that might have been a teacher minute because everyone knows you don't really track when you say 1 more minute, unless you have an awesome timer that's really easy to get to. We are going to break you from that looking and perusing activity, but you will have more time if you were really into something that was really important to you. Let's see, let me go back. So the next, we're going to give you 15 minutes, actually like 14 minutes, probably 13, because I'm going to talk for just a second, but we're going to give you some time to really begin to start that lesson plan, because we know teachers don't have time after the conference or to come back to it later. So we're going to give you built-in time right now with our workshop to actually begin writing this lesson plan. And I'm going to pull up, got to manage all my screens here, but I'm going to pull up and share my screen that goes back to your resources. So you have the model, you have the template lesson sequence, and then you have the model lesson that Kendle went through with you. And then on page 8 of the resource that we shared with you, there's a blank lesson template. So this is where you can really dive in and start building in those pieces from our presentation, and feel free to go throughout any of the slides that we have provided. Beg, borrow, steal from activities that Kendle showed or that we've provided, or go find your own, whatever works for you. And we're going to give you until 10:15 or 10:15 to work on this. So you can go ahead and turn your camera off and mute however you feel most comfortable, or you can leave it open. If we're here though, Kendall and I, and you can unmute and ask a question at any time or send a chat, and we will be happy to offer any knowledge that we may have, although we're not super experts yet.
We'll also give you a few minutes to share in breakout rooms after you have a chance to independently create your lesson, so that we can grow our wealth of knowledge together and share ideas that you each have in a quick breakout share out. All right, friends, we want to invite you to finish up wherever you are at in your lesson sequence, or if you have taken a little break to kind of come back to your computer. I am going to open the breakout rooms for you to share with a few other participants what stood out for you, what kind of resources you're using, what you think about the lesson, what you chose to incorporate into your lesson, anything that you want to talk about. It's always fun to talk to other educators and get more ideas. So I'm going to send you all off, and you have 4 minutes in your breakout rooms. Any questions before we whisk away into our different places? All right, let us know if you do. And just so I think Anne and Kelsey and Sam, we just have you staying in this room. So I am just going to mute myself and turn off my camera so you all feel free to just chat on your own.
So I did my lesson plan on the floss rule. I actually teach Orton Gillingham in my classroom, and so I follow this progression pretty similarly to what they're suggesting. One activity I really love to do with my students is a ring toss. So if I'm teaching the floss rule, I would teach them it's a 1-syllable base word with a short vowel sound that ends in F, L, S, or Z. And then I would do an auditory game with them where I give words like mass, and they would have to pound the syllable. Is it 1 syllable? Is it a base word? Does it end in S, F, L, or Z? If it does, they would ring toss to yes or no, but then give them other words that maybe don't follow that rule or something like that, and go from there. Like one I can think of is male, and because it doesn't have a short vowel sound but ends in the L, they would have to differentiate between their vowel sounds and decide why it doesn't follow the rule.
I love the hands-on activity that you had with that, with the rule. That's awesome. Oh, Samantha, you're muted still.
But they really love it too. They're always asking, can we play ring toss with this rule?
Yeah, that's really like the hands-on engagement. Well, I hope that you all were able to have a good conversation. We heard a really cool hands-on activity with the group that we were with. But before we close out, maybe I think, Sierra, there's one slide right before this. Yeah. We just wanted to close out with a few more resources for you and an exit ticket. So feel free to use any of the resources and links that are in the slides. We just ask that you make a copy first so that like all of the original will stay intact. You can click on the K3 library link right here from the Idaho Coaching Network for a lot more free resources. And here's another article by Emily Hanford. That's just another resource. It's a great read. So kids struggle to read when schools leave phonics out. It's another good read. And I think Dr. Moats is quoted quite a few times in that as well. And then I wanted to offer this opportunity from the State Department of Education. The State Department has created an Idaho Smart Path to Reading. And this is a flyer that will be sent out soon, and it will be on the website, the State Department's website. It's not quite live yet, so you're the first to learn about this. And so I'll just kind of just share a little bit from what I know. It is not from the Idaho Coaching Network. It is from the State Department. And the Smart Path to Reading is striving to meet achievement in reading together. And if you're a K3 educator or administrator, you can sign up to be the first SMART cohort. The cohort will start in August 2021, and it will continue through May 2022 with the option of a continued participation for the following year. And you're eligible if you teach reading to K3 students. And the activities that you'd be included in are you would attend 3 full days of training throughout the year to learn about the science of reading. You would implement strategies into your lessons aligned to the science of teaching reading. You'll participate in virtual and in-person classroom coaching, and you'll also attend an online community of practice. You'll just be required to participate in a minimum of 80% of the activities each month, and will just to remain a part of the cohort. And they're asking you to kind of find a buddy in your school. They just want to have 2 educators from the same school to sign up to participate. That just really helps collaborate, and we all know the collaboration helps our learning. So if you want to learn more, there is that link in our in our slides that you can click on to be a part of the Idaho's first SMART cohort. And then there's also more information on the bottom of that flyer if you want to learn more. Here's a few additional websites if you're wanting to learn even more. We touched on just the tiny tip of the science of reading research. There's so much more, and both of those websites have those. And then if you have the interactive slides pulled up still, we would love for your feedback and ways that you feel that this workshop has either helped as a place that like you could grow at with your instruction, or maybe even you want to show how you already glow in your instruction, and you're invited to either fill that out on slide 82, or you can put that in the chat. And my time is up here with you all. So I want to give you that. I think we have, correct me if I'm wrong, Sierra, is it a 10-minute break between this session and your next session?
Yes, there's a 10-minute session 2 starts at 10:30, and you can go back to that conference registration site to grab the next Zoom link. And this Zoom link will just stay open, so there might be people coming and going, but the next session starts at 10:30.
So thank you all for your time and your collaboration today with us, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday learning.